Welcome to Master B2B, the home of the unwebinar, where we take a key issue in B2B e-commerce and we debate it with two teams of industry experts. And you get to vote on the winner of the debate. My name is Brian Beck. I'm thrilled to be here with Andy Hoare. Andy is a longtime veteran of the B2B e-commerce field. He was a Silicon Valley vet, spent several years as the VP of B2B e-commerce at Forrester Research. And he's my partner in the Master B2B Thought Leadership Series. So, Andy, I'm excited about this debate.
Well, Brian, thank you for saying that. I really do appreciate it. So for those of you who don't know Brian's a 20-year industry veteran. He worked on both the practitioner side, the consulting side, and he's also written a book. On the practitioner side, he was the VP of e-commerce at Harbor Freight Tools, also at PacSun on the B2C side. And again, his book is called $1 Billion B2B E-commerce. Many of you probably have seen it. If you haven't, you should get a copy of it and definitely read the foreword. I'll just say that much about that. So Brian, good to be here.
Yeah, likewise, Andy. So, folks, as we get into this, look, we have participated before. This is a debate, right? So we have 3 rounds and we have 2 teams. At the end of each round, you will have a chance to vote on who won that round. And at the very end of our webinar today, we will reveal who the winner is of the debate. So stick around for that. I think I'm going to take this one, Andy. We'll see. We have a really hot topic today. So folks, chime in as you if you have questions or you want to add to the conversation using the Q&A box. So we want to hear from you. So please do that. Today, our topic is ChatGPT the new site search in B2B e-commerce? We have just a great panel of practitioners today that's going to talk about this. And you know, Andy, we posted this on LinkedIn. And this is just ChatGPT is so hot. It's a topic of so many discussions now. You know, we've got a great panel of people, a great group of people joining us. When I was looking through the registrant list earlier, who do you see joining?
Yeah, no, a whole plethora of people. Just a few people I'm seeing here. George Witchek from McMaster Carr, Patrick Lord from Samsung, Michelle Hahn from Insight, and our good friend Ricardo the Sardinian Slayer from Cepheid. So it's great to see everybody here.
We got some contenders coming back. I see Kendall Group here. I see Watsco's here, Emerson, Fastenal, Gordon Foods, Adam's here, Adam Kupek for Sloan. Hey, Adam. Melanie, you mentioned Agilent, American Bath Group, Jensen Precast, Grasshopper, Mauser, Eaton, McKesson, Granger, Ergodyne. Oh my gosh, this is like everybody's here, Andy. So I guess this is like a serious serious consideration. You know, when we had our summit last year in Chicago, we talked about, you know, we had hundreds of the best joining us at the University of Chicago. And ChatGPT and the whole revolution around AI was really top of mind. So many folks talking about it, and it has implications for so many things, right? We talked about it in efficiency and creating product data and customer service and answering questions. However, you know, when it comes to site search, it's one of our top pain points, as I think you're going to share in a minute. You know, I use ChatGPT for all kinds of things. I use it daily, but you know, can it solve the issue of site search? And that's really it. And so, Andy, I think you have some data for us. Would you mind?
Yeah, we're going to spend a couple of minutes kind of walking through this because a lot of confusion about what ChatGPT is, generative AI, and why it's relevant to B2B e-commerce. But I want to start first with why the hell are we even talking about this? And the reason why is because of this piece of data that we uncovered in our recent research. 61% of B2B sellers have lost sales because their site search wasn't good enough. That is a non-negotiable in B2B. And it's non-negotiable in every business. This is the front door of your business. And when, you know, 61% are saying we're losing sales because of it, that's not good. And then more to the point, 84% of B2B sellers are upgrading or plan to upgrade site search in the next 36 months. Now, until recently, the options for that upgrade or that replacement consisted of kind of the standard site search vendors, very good companies like, you know, Bloomreach, Coveo, GroupBy, and companies like Algolia. And we have a representative from Algolia on today. But in the last several months, we've seen the emergence of ChatGPT. And what's interesting about ChatGPT is that it's really created a new model. And just so we all know what GPT stands for in generative AI, I'm going to try and explain this as best I can. So, and I know, Brian, you were asking about this. So listen up. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Again, no marketing person named that for sure. But it's essentially an AI chatbot. that was launched in November of 2022 by a research lab, now a company called OpenAI, that was founded in 2015. People forget about that. This thing's been around for like 8 years. And Microsoft has invested in 2 tranches, $11 billion in this company. So it's well-funded, well-resourced, group of smart people. And the way it works is it leverages something called a large language model, which effectively guesses what the next word, number, et cetera, in response to a question will be based on a survey of all the world's knowledge. I mean, that's an oversimplification, but that's how it works. And it's called generative because it generates something arguably considered net new to humanity, although ironically enough, it only draws upon what's already in existence in the body of knowledge of humanity. But that's the word generative. What it means is it's generating something net new versus just spitting out something that already exists. So why do we care? Well, we care because, as you can see on the screen here, Robert, next slide, you can see that it's grown like a wildfire, right? I mean, and I don't mean that ironically, being in Chicago where we've got, smoke drifting because of wildfires in Canada, maybe bad pun, but I think it took, 1 week, 5 days to reach 1 million users. And it reached 100 million users in 2 months, which is incredible. As you can see how it stacks up against the others. And by direct comparison to, say, Google, which took 12 months to reach 100 million users. So this thing is growing quite quickly. And it's created this kind of dynamic where now ChatGPT and Google and their version of ChatGPT called Bard is now, a thing. And they're battling for public search. And, next slide, Robert, you can see that what's interesting, though, is Google's not new to this, yet somehow they seem to have been caught off guard. A little history here, just quickly. Google bought a company in 2014, you can see on the screen here, called DeepMind for $500 million, right? And since they bought that company, they developed something called Lambda, which became Bard. And if you recall, remember that guy, Brian, like in early 2022, who claimed that Google developed a chatbot that had become sentient, which means alive, right? Everyone focused on the part of, gosh, is this a new entity on the planet? And people forgot about the fact that it was an incredible technology, including Google. But I think Google did it on purpose because it feels like, and I think when history is written, we'll see this, it feels like a classic example of the innovator's dilemma, where Google would have to cannibalize its existing business model, completely disrupt it to launch something. And of course, it doesn't want to do that. So it slow walked it to market. And you know how we know that? Because we can see by just looking at Google. Right. If you look at their website, which is the next slide, I just tested it out. I said, let me do a search for what's the best way to see Chicago. And it searched 1.3 billion results and came back with 3 ads. Really? Now, contrast that with Bing, which has a way to go as well, but has ChatGPT-like functionality embedded in it. And I did the exact same search and what's the best way to see Chicago? And it came back with an actual answer. And the problem here for Google is that, as the CEO of DeepMind said recently, or the founder of DeepMind said recently, Google would have to completely change its business model to accommodate this. And he actually argued, again, this is a guy who started the company that Google bought, and he worked there for several years. He said Google is going to have to develop a subscription service. Imagine that, flipping your entire business on its ear for a subscription service. So we know that ChatGPT and Bard are now going to be battling for the next several years. So basically, ChatGPT and Google, Microsoft and Google, battling to be the face of public search. And don't forget, Apple, Amazon, all the rest are coming as well. But today's debate is actually an analogy to this, which is it also possible now that ChatGPT has developed this new generative model, which actually answers questions and doesn't try and monetize your every movement? Is it possible that ChatGPT is now going to battle with traditional site search and B2B to be the face of that as well? And so we thought, let's have the debate. And so here we are.
Wait, Andy, where's my slide? You want my slide out. Okay, so folks, Andy is obviously arguing that ChatGPT will be a considerable influence. Andy, I gave you this slide. I gave this to you, and he didn't put it in. What this thing says here: how much do U.S. adults trust search results generated by AI? Trust a great deal, Andy. Any guesses? 5%. Distrust or distrust a little or a great deal? 31%.
Right. I can't wait to get in this because that reminds me of credit cards, payment systems, driver assist cards, I mean, on and on and on.
Yeah, okay. By the way, I asked ChatGPT, I asked it if it was ready for a site search on e-commerce sites for B2B. It said, I'm quoting ChatGPT, while ChatGPT can offer assistance, it may not be a perfect solution and requires additional customization and integration to meet specific business needs. Do we need to continue on the debate? I asked ChatGPT. It said it can't do it. So, all right.
But at least you could ask ChatGPT. How do I ask site search that question?
All right. Okay. We're going to get into it, guys. This is fun. This is a great setup, and this is going to be a great debate. And we have people representing different sides as always. So we're going to go ahead and introduce our contenders. We got a great lineup today. So my team first, Andy, as usual, arguing that ChatGPT, my side, won't be the new site search. I have two ringers here. I've got Brooke, Lights Out Logan. So those who don't know Brooke, she's the director of product management at Genuine Parts Company, a global behemoth, one of the most important companies in their category. They sell millions of automotive parts. Many of you know Napa, which is one of their divisions. So she knows the importance of great site search. She says ChatGPT is great, but as a replacement for site search, it's about as clunky as a 1981 Chrysler K car. Take that, whore. Brooke, it's great to see you here on the debate.
Happy to be here, Brian, and glad to be on your team today.
We're going to win. Okay. Our next contender on my side, Subrata ChatGPT. He even has GPT in his name, Andy. Chakrabarti. He's the VP of Product Marketing at Algolia. This guy knows a lot about site search for B2B companies. He says, I didn't have to use Algolia's AI-powered search and discovery tools to know that site search is here to stay. Site visitors expect a traditional search experience. AI is already improving the results. Customers want highly relevant results, and ChatGPT is not going to improve on that. Drop the mic. Welcome, Mr. GPT.
Thank you, Brian. What do site search visitors actually want? The site gets me. ChatGPT ain't got a chance. ChatGPT might be with site search. I might actually copyright that.
You should. Awesome. All right, Andy, time to introduce
Well, he's jumping in before we even got into the debate. This is good. I like the eagerness, maybe defensiveness, but I like the eagerness as well.
You're just stating facts. Go ahead.
All right, so now the winning team. So I've got my own set of ringers here, but Colin the Crusher Cronin, who's no stranger to our on webinars. He's the director of digital and e-commerce channels at Leica Biosystems. This digital leader from medical technology manufacturer Leica says the prognosis for site search is grim. His quote is, just as our products help medical professionals make the right diagnosis every time, my diagnosis is that site search is getting worse and the only cure is ChatGPT. Colin, welcome.
Glad to be back. Look forward to crushing some more poorly articulated arguments today.
Excellent and very thoughtful. So joining us is a newcomer, actually. So Akash Money, Srivastava, for the remainder of this will be known as Shri, because I'm not going to try and butcher that one again. He's the innovation leader at HP, has a long history with B2B commerce at HP. Actually was on the search team early in his career, so quite a depth of knowledge here. And if you're leading innovation like Akash does, you're definitely thinking about how generative AI models can replace site search. He says, when it comes to generating more cash money from our site visitors, I'm sure that ChatGPT ultimately will do a better job converting visitors than traditional site search. So Akash, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. And got my magic wand here with the cash right there. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Brian, now it's time.
I think it's about that time. Let's get the debate started. Robert, let's ring the bell. Excellent. Okay, Andy, round one is yours, sir. Fire away.
We're getting right to it. So who's going to win the war for personalization? This would be interesting. So who's best positioned to deliver a next generation personalized experience? Let's go to Team ChatGPT first. Let's go to you first, Akash. Let's talk a little bit about why do you think ChatGPT is better at personalization than site search?
Yeah, well, this is its core strength. And if you look at it, right, today, Andy, ChatGPT already delivers a conversational experience which is highly personal and contextual to what the user is saying or asking. Plus, it can also offer opinions. So, for example, and this is something that, an experiment anyone can do. Go open ChatGPT and give it a set of your preferences about any product, and then ask it, hey, in your opinion, which product should I buy? And it'll tell you that. Site search can't do that. And then if it had access, for example, to the user's browsing history, it can cater the experience to not only the explicit, but also the implicit preferences of the user. So I think, yes, it's going to get there with the personalized experience.
Excellent answer. So Colin, and I think it's worth remembering here too, as Akash just pointed out, it's not just a public version of ChatGPT, it's a private version that you can use to train your bots on your own website to have that kind of conversation as well. And I know this is something that you've been thinking about.
Yeah, for me, it's all about look at the data. And I think there's already data that suggests that ChatGPT's got the clear win here. Then there was a research study conducted early this year involving 40 different questions comparing ChatGPT to Google. And ChatGPT had a 60% win rate. And the ones that it tended to perform better were those questions that were a little bit more involved, where you needed a little bit more level of detail and the result was actionable, which of course, call to action is a key element in e-commerce. And that's with the handicap of having data only as far back as 2021. Imagine if you brought that up to speed with your own data and trained it. Game over.
Wow. Okay, well, let's...
I see you eyeing me, Brian. I see you eyeing me.
Out of kindness, let's look at the other side.
We're not talking about public search. We're talking about on-site search. Give my team a chance, Andy.
All right, let's go to Subrata, who already started the debate. So Subrata, I guess you probably disagree. I think you're gonna tell us that site search actually has the advantage here.
Personalization. Great question. Of what? Of content, but must be in context. Give you an example. We have one of our large customers in the business of manufacturing safety equipments for personal and industrial use. Now, think about helmets for a second. If you're a construction crew company, you are thinking about very different kind of product requirements, dimensions, industry compliance things. Contrast that with a fire safety company and their use of helmets. Very different. If you go and do a generic search, you'll get very, very generic results. Site search actually understands that context because it has used the right data to train, to index, and give you the right results. Context makes all the difference. And site search builds this and further augments this by using behavioral data, preferences. So now you have the most relevant result. That's why it's only site search who can do it.
Interesting. Brooke, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think site search is absolutely best positioned, right? I mean, just like Subrata said, a real limitation with ChatGPT today is that you have to set that proper context. I mean, Cash Money said it himself, right? Especially regarding a specific user and a specific domain. And there's really a reason that an emerging career path is prompt engineer. I don't think that our B2B buyers want to function as prompt engineers to get a personalized response from our websites. Especially when, to Subrata's point, right, we're already getting this today with site solutions that use AI.
Well, Brooke, let's stay with you for the second question here in this category. It's about the access to private data. Do you need access to private data not available in the public domain, for example, which is where ChatGPT excels right now, to personalize a buying experience? I mean, it kind of begs the question, are you only using private data? Are you using public data? And if you're using public data, doesn't that kind of play to ChatGPT as well? So, Brooke, your answer to that?
Yeah, so absolutely, you need private data. And just remember that site search has accessed, indexed, and optimized using this private data for years, right? Site search has current data And there's very low risk with indexing and using proprietary data related to your customer information, your product information, and site analytics. So yeah, of course you need private data to do this.
Subrata?
Brooke said it all. Trust, mitigating risk, recency of the data. Think about buying industrial beams. You are worrying about dimensions, materials, temperature tolerance, product SKUs, how people think about it. You need to know all the nuances, and nuances are the key for B2B business that makes or breaks the customer experience. Site search understands that because it has encoded that data with all of the security in place and can give you the best results. I want to wrap up by saying two things. One is availability of the data, and second part is usefulness of the data. Just because generative AI has a bunch of data available to it, it doesn't mean that it is useful. Site search understands the usefulness by working with the right data as a foundation, so it can give you the best results.
Interesting. Well, let's hear from the other side. So Colin, let's look at your take on this. So it's a couple of questions here, really, all wrapped up in one. I'll just let you
I think it's interesting. We're talking a lot about nuance and context when we see that on most sites. When people type in search terms, they get a search not found, or they get results that aren't accurate and aren't, to Brian's point, we're not comparing ChatGPT to Google, we're comparing it to site search. But how many websites and vendors have a site search experience that rivals what Google delivers to their end customer? I bet if you polled your customers, most of them would say it's not up to par. At the end of the day, of course, you're going to need to train on private data. I don't think that's the argument. You could have site search without private data and it wouldn't be very effective. Same with ChatGPT or generative AI. You'd be foolish not to train your model on your own data because you've got access to your customer data, your products, your orders. You do have to do the same thing to site search to truly personalize it, but it doesn't really change the fact at the end of the day, ChatGPT and generative AI more generally can deliver a better personalized experience because it's able to understand the intent and interact with the user in a way that site search just hasn't been able to do.
Well, and Akash, let's get you in on this one too. I mean, you and I talked about this before.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
And I agree with what Colin just said. The debate is not whether it needs private data or not. The power of ChatGPT is that generative AI basically is that it can respond, it can adapt to what the user is telling us. And today you already have, I think Brooke mentioned it, you can do prompt engineering, which is similar to what you would do when you're indexing, the bulk of your content in any site search situation, in any site search solution. Plus, let's look at the evidence. 61% of sellers have said, and this is the Master B2B study, they have said that site search today is not good enough. They've lost sales because it's not good enough. Now, ChatGPT, generative AI is a paradigm shift. It's looking at the problem from a different angle. And it provides a power which we never had yet. So, you can do all kinds of personalizations on top of site search solutions. You are just rebuilding ChatGPT.
By the way, it's a great point about citing the research again. Sometimes we just forget what we said 10 minutes ago. 61% of companies said they've lost sales because site search is not good enough. Hey, can ChatGPT just do better than that, maybe? So, Brian, anyway, I know we got to wrap up the round. So back to you.
We got to go to the poll question. That was a good set of arguments. So, folks, go ahead and indicate your answer to the question. Who is going to win the war for personalization? Andy, let's be honest here, okay? What does personalization mean in B2B commerce? It means finding the product specifically. It means getting the customer to the product quickly that's relevant for their application. That takes context, okay? Mr. GPT said it the best, right? He talked about training, and Brooke said it too. You have to train with context, ChatGPT. If you I challenge you, Mr. Horde, take your e-commerce site and put ChatGPT in the box and the search box. I'll take my Algolia solution and I'll kick your butt. So I challenge you to this. Let's see who wins, because I even did this. I took one of Mr. Cronin's SKU numbers and put it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT came back to me and it basically yelled at me. It said, I don't know how to facilitate a purchase. And then it got confused and I had to continue to set context. So I think what we're arguing here is, can you take ChatGPT and use it for site search for your site? There's too many nuances. There's too much context that's required to do that in its current state. But
okay, Well, I'll just point out that what you just did was interact with something, ask it questions, which you can't do with site search. With site search, you have to infer based on behavior.
People don't have time to
And anybody, but you can just ask people with ChatGPT. Anybody who's done research like me, I just did some research recently on fans for a project I was working on. Guess what happens every time I go to any site, anywhere? All I see is fans. I'm not interested in buying a fan, but if it asked me, Andy, are you looking at fans? I'd say no. But I'm sorry, I can't be asked that question by site search.
You're getting all analysts, man. How about, listen, I've implemented site search anyway. Okay, we got to go to the next round. We don't have time. All right, let's go to the next round. Robert, ring the bell. Round 2 is mine. Andy, would you please keep score? Here, guys, we're talking about, are there basic limits to generative AI's capability to emulate classic site search? This is a great one. And our first question, can generative AI handle a range of search queries, both standard and non-standard? We're going to go to Team ChatGPT first. Akash, we're going to you first on this question. What do you think? What do you say, sir?
Hey, Brian. Yeah, absolutely. Can it handle standard and non-standard search? Yes. I mean, it natively understands human natural language. You can give it keywords and it can do keyword search. Here's an experiment, right? I did this. I asked it, to recommend me a set of speakers with a very crisp sound and which are good for movie watching. So not only did it understand what's crisp sound, what is good for movie watching in the context of speakers, it gave me a list of recommended speakers. But then I can go a step further and I can tell it, okay, well, from the ones that you've recommended, give me the ones which are in this price range. So that's your standard site search, filter, facet use case. But then I can take it a step further and I can say, hey, you know what, based on all that I've told you, right, which one do you think that I should purchase? And site search can't do that. So that's your standard, non-standard search cases.
Okay, all right. That's a good argument. Is there anything to add to that, Mr. Crusher?
Yeah, I think like most questions that Brian likes to ask, they're usually red herrings. So I don't think generative AI is really trying to emulate classic site search. I think the goal is really to shift the paradigm by providing a better and more user-friendly way for people to engage in order to get the answers to their questions. I think most of us probably have heard some statistic like, 71% of people prefer to talk rather than type their search. And a big part of that is because people prefer to engage in a more conversational nature. And we've seen, I think it was at the Master B2B in-person summit, Tim Lavender is a member of our community, talked about how he was using the OpenAI model and having his team actually drive it for product data mapping. I mean, that's not something that site search can do. So I think the fact that it can handle not just your standard queries, but also some of these more innovative and creative tasks that people have both internally and externally to organizations is a clear answer that it's well beyond the ability of a classic site search.
Well, there you go again, Mr. Crusher, changing the conversation. I don't know. We're not talking about product data normalization. We're talking about site search. And by the way, Colin, Andy wrote the questions, not me. So the red herring belongs to him. So let's go to the other side of the debate here. Let's team site search. Let's go to Subrata. Let's go to you first. What say you, sir?
I'll go back to the data. What data you train on dictates the results you get. Think about a standard query like, men's blue jeans. It could be handled by both of them pretty much equally well. Let's change it a little bit. I want to find men's boot-fitted, dark wash, size 34 that I can wear in a party or casual settings and all that stuff. And this is where you're going to run into trouble with ChatGPT. Because as much as it can do all the cute stuff, like the conversational things, it actually does not understand the nuances. The site search does it because it has factored in all the multifaceted concept that is embedded in the query. For example, the product types and the colors and the washes and the sizes. We have indexed that. And now we can retrieve that as part of the result and give you the most relevant results. Talking about relevant results, Colin the Crusher talked about you get 0 null results. You're absolutely right, you do. And you know why? Because those site search solutions sucks. They don't know how to understand the intent of the user query because they're simply running keyword. It is not a generative AI concept. It is not having the right search product that you have implemented in your environment. Algolia does it differently.
Okay, awesome.
Whether
Good
Are you saying
response.
Algolia is using generative AI to power its search technology?
Algolia uses a combination of keyword and a natural language understanding, and we call it neural search. We are the only company who can do it in parallel for every query. Why that matters is when you are having a catalog of 100 million or more products with different SKUs and combinations, you want to get the result back in 10, 15 milliseconds around the world with a 5 nines guarantee. It's very, very tough problem to solve. And the way we can do that, because we understand the search as it was talked about, as people are looking for it, whether they're asking a question or they're simply browsing. We don't need anybody to generate that. We already have that data generated.
But the reason why we think about search like that is because that's what we have known. And again, generative AI it's a paradigm shift. So the power here is that you don't have to, it works with unstructured data as well. And I quoted an experiment that I did. It can do all kinds of faceting and filtering. Even with unstructured data, it can look at the results that it provided and filter those to a specific price range or any other criteria that you give it to.
Akash, people have figured out how to use the unstructured data a long time ago. That's a natural language processing conversation.
Yeah, but here's where it gets frustrating for people who use, traditional chatbots or search engines, because those cannot cater to when the user goes off script. And that's what gets frustrating.
And that's a limitation.
Users want to have a conversation with the site. They want to have a conversation, get to what they want in an iterative manner. And then chatbots and traditional search solutions are not able to cater to that.
Yeah, because those site search solutions are decades old. They have not figured out how to incorporate unstructured data.
You guys are getting all Jerry Springer, and I love it. We got to give lights out.
Exactly my point.
Chance to weigh in. Lights out. Go. What do you got?
I'm going to bring us back, right? So, can generative AI handle a range of search queries? No, it really can't. I mean, by ChatGPT's own admission, it can't handle this, again, because it lacks context. So I dare you to go type a part number or a competitor part number in, right? Brian tried it, and see what comes out of it. Because the customers that are shopping on the sites that I work on right now, right? They're pulling a part off a car. They see a set of numbers, letters on it. They type that in the search box and they get something back. They get one result back, and that's what they need to buy to replace it with. You want to try that with ChatGPT? No, it's not going to work.
All right, good.
Brian, we have 1 minute left.
We have 1 minute. Okay, let's get some quick answers on one more question. Don't B2B on e-commerce online buying experiences have specific requirements that purely generative AI can't handle? Let's get a quick answer from Team Site Search first. Brooke, you want to weigh in on this one, and then we'll get a quick retort from the other side.
Yeah, exactly what I just talked about. So there's really huge limitations here for ChatGPT, and I think part number or competitive part number is a good one. And we also get plenty of searches that may be something like 2019 Ford F-150 headlight bulb, right? Semantic search handles that, has for years, deciphers the vehicle, the product, the specific application, the usage. ChatGPT just can't do that today. And further, I do want to call out that the risk of generating something or filling in some kind of data that's intuited here is huge, because safety is a factor. And in B2B e-commerce, this is not something that we want to play around with.
Nope. Okay. Let's give the other side a chance to weigh in on this. Mr. Crusher, do you have a retort for that, sir?
I mean, I feel like my competition has already made my argument for me that it has to do on the data that you train your model on. It's the same with the index. Just because you implement site search, to Radha's point, there's a lot of site searches that suck. You still have to build the data model. You have to get the correct data attributes from internal systems, index them, build your index. It's no different with ChatGPT or OpenAI. You've got to train it with the right data. Of course, if you don't, it's going to give you incorrect information. But that's not a function of search versus generative AI. That's just a function of, do you train your system on the right information?
All right, Colin, I'm going to start a company that's going to have a bunch of prompt engineers sitting in a call center, and you can be my first client because they're going to spend all their time training prompts. All right, let's go to
Save this video, because that's probably going to happen.
It probably will. Okay, we got to go to the poll, guys. We're out of time. Let's go to the poll. Robert, bring it up, please, sir. Andy, go ahead and vote here. Are there basic limits to generative AI's ability to emulate classic site search? Yes or no? Andy, what did you think of that debate?
Well, I think Brooke actually made a really good point there. I mean, some of this stuff, there are safety issues. I can't believe I'm making this point for the other side, but I do think where we are right now, it is arguable that the safer choice is site search. However, I think the more extensible choice is generative AI and a ChatGPT-like approach, because as Cash Money said, it can handle standard and non-standard stuff. Maybe not everywhere, maybe not all the time right now, but how long is that going to take? And once it happens, then it's, checkmate.
Well, luckily, ChatGPT knows everything up until 2021, and well, nothing else has changed since then, right, Andy? I mean, as Samer, thank you for that comment. He says your data and taxonomy can change on a regular basis. That means you, a human, has to consistently train ChatGPT on this new data set. Samer Shahade, thank you for that comment. So this is not a static thing. I'm not saying necessarily that traditional site search, Andy, doesn't have the same kind of requirements, but the context training is important here. And these tools, site search tools, have been building this, and if it's implemented well, I think you really do, to your point, reduce your risk of making bad recommendations outside of context. So anyway, any further comments or thoughts on that before we go to the next round?
I think this has gotten really interesting. We're actually behind schedule, so we got to move forward.
I know, we got to get.
We haven't read like 90%. We got all these comments. We don't have time.
No, there's 100 of them, guys. Keep them coming. This is great. We'll try to get to as many as we can. Let's go to round 3. Ring the bell. All right, Mr. Horde, this one's yours. I'm keeping time.
Okay, what's interesting about this one is I think everybody will agree that this is ultimately the objective, which is conversational commerce. The question here is, who's going to get there first? And so let's go to Team ChatGPT. Let's go to you, Akash. Why is ChatGPT going to get to conversational commerce before site search?
Yeah, so I'll look at the evidence which is in front of us. Search technologies and even traditional machine learning technologies have been around for almost 3 decades, if not more. They've had plenty of time to refine themselves. They've got plenty of time to mature. Yet we know what the latest master B2B study found. 61% sellers feel that their site search is not good enough. So something is missing. In all these decades, we have not been able to cover that gap. So the evidence speaks for itself. Now, again, generative AI is a game changer. It's looking at the same problem from a different angle. I think it's going to get there first. And then somebody mentioned about, sometimes it generates content which might not be correct. Well, it's evolving very quickly. GPT-4 now is 40% more factual than GPT 3.5, and it is 80% less likely to, respond with content which has been filtered out. So it's evolving very quickly, and I expect these capabilities to develop very quickly in the coming days.
I like Brian. I like his Occam's razor argument, where he keeps coming back to the same percentage. And you know what? He's absolutely right. They've had 3 decades, and yet here we are. 61% said they've lost sales because of it. But anyway, we'll give you a chance in your team to respond. So, Colin, what would you add to that?
I think that conversational component it's kind of baked into the question that, OpenAI, generative AI, things like ChatGPT, I mean, conversation, it's all kind of wrapped up. It's already delivering on that piece. The gap around, you can't find, a custom SKU number from a supplier when you type into ChatGPT. That's like saying, well, I couldn't find my part number when I went onto some unrelated website and typed it into the site search there. The conversational part is the tricky part. That's the part that site search hasn't been able to deliver on. And I don't see, unless it decides to rebuild itself as a generative AI engine, that it's going to really solve that gap.
Yeah, this might be Akash's point earlier about, to do this, you have to build ChatGPT, which already exists. But let's hear from the other side on this one. Let's go to Subrata. So obviously you think site search is going to get there first. Tell us why.
Absolutely. 2 pieces to it, right? Commerce and conversation. Which one is more foundational? I would argue commerce. It's not only understanding the nuances, part number, everything that Brooke was talking about, but it's also how people actually use that. They use it with filtering and boosting and burying and faceting, all of that essential for the B2B business. And on top of that, you have the behavioral data, preferences. It could be even localization preferences, what is popular in some of the areas. All of that site search brings to the conversation. conversation in a different way. But now you can add, it's almost like the foundation that you're building for a house. If you've got that foundation in place, you can put the doors and windows. That's a conversational piece that comes with it. And to the point somebody made, it was not there before. Actually not true, because a lot of our customers have been using for years some of the Q&A product questions. They're building on top of that. And it's just evolving in terms of how this virtual assistant, that sort of thing, morphing into more of a natural human conversational flow. So it was not the case. It was not there before.
But just a quick question, follow-up. Those question and answer bots, for example, are not generative AI bots, right?
Correct.
Okay.
There was more of the conversational pieces only that helps with the discoverability of the products.
So it's poor man's generative AI.
Poor man's generative AI. Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. So Brooke, what would you say to this?
Yeah, I mean, I think you really have to think about what conversational commerce means to your customers specifically, right? Because we have extensive research to support the hypothesis that time is critical to B2B buyers. That means they don't want to engage into some lengthy prompt engineering conversation. What they're looking for is more like the semantic search that already exists today. So search is really already there. That's the kind of conversation they really want to have.
Interesting. You're the first one to bring up the efficiency of site search argument, that they just want to toss it out there and have somebody figure it out for them. That's interesting. Well, let's stick with you then and go to the last question in this about, can site search, let's flip the script here, can site search reasonably evolve into a serious generative AI tool? I know Subrata brought this up earlier, and I'm sure he's going to mention here in a moment that, to get conversational commerce, you have to have commerce and conversation. I think he's going to tell us that generative AI is going to be subsumed into site search. But what say you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I tend to default back to the customer, right? So one thing here is thinking about what you really want and what your customers really want in an AI tool, right? Search has been an AI tool. It's already there. It's been there for years. Site search AI learns, it evolves quickly. But the difference really between site search AI and generative AI today is that a more traditional AI model is responding to very specific inputs. You said it earlier, generative AI is by definition intended to be creative and produce original outputs. I'm going to go back to the fact that I think that's pretty risky when we're talking about a tool for finding products for B2B applications. So you just have to be really thoughtful and start with the commerce part and then figure out where the generative piece really comes into play.
Interesting. Okay, so Colin and Kash, let's get your final thoughts on this. So Colin, you first.
So definitely safety is a huge thing, and AI safety is a massively developing field. But I think when I talk to our customers and I hear them kind of describe, I was just talking to a customer from a larger reference lab the other day, and they described their ideal future state where they'd be able to speak like a human or type like a human to a system that would help them find solutions to their problems. When we talk about efficiency, it's not just how fast did I find my product and how fast did I find my SKU? It's also finding the right product, the right solution to do their jobs better. And there's just a level of sophistication when it comes to instructional use, especially in our field, which is highly scientific, highly, it's highly medical, a lot of regulation, but also a lot of knowledge and domain information that you need to know. And Sitesearch is just not equipped to handle that. You can put lipstick on a pig and call it generative AI, but at the end of the day, it's still your old site search inadequate functionality.
It is an interesting point, and Akash, we'll go to you for a final comment here, that they're two different approaches, right? I mean, you could argue it's conversational commerce, but which is more important and which is going to win? The commerce part or the conversation part? So Akash, give us a final thought on that one.
Well, I would like to say that to our site search friends who keep saying, oh, well, users expect the traditional search experience. Don't be a Nokia or a Kodak. Look at it. We are at an inflection point with AI. Realize the value of new technology and use it for providing more creative solutions. I think safety is a key issue, but like I mentioned, it's a rapidly evolving field. Already GPT-4 is 40% more factual, 80% less likely to respond with filtered out content, and I think this is going to get better. I think I see the future as generative AI evolving to solving more domain-specific use cases and problems as happening quicker and more efficiently than taking site search and building it, evolving it to to where it provides conversational commerce. And last point, somebody mentioned the Q&A kind of chatbots. Those more often than not turn out to be frustrations for the users who are using them because they cannot respond when the user deviates from the script. You have to predefine, all the prompts, all the intents, and all the pieces of information that you need. And when the user goes off script, they just fail. And this is where generative AI comes into the picture.
Well, you put a nice point on. I think you summarized the argument and quite well here.
Guys, 40% more than what though? That's what I want to know. If I've got a mission critical application, like, I don't know, a hard hat or a sling that's going to lift up a tanker truck, I don't want to be guessing at my 40%, it's 40% better. So you only have a 10% chance of dying. All I'm saying is it doesn't sound like you're convinced it's there yet. That's what I heard.
Brian, are you joining the debate now? Is that what it is? Are you panelist?
I am joining the debate.
Should I have gone to you as well for your comment on this one?
Well, you're about to. Guys, thank you very much. We got to go to the poll question, though. That was great points. Okay, great point about everybody. Here's our poll question, guys. Who is going to be the first to deliver conversational commerce? ChatGPT or site search? Andy, what is a conversation in B2B e-commerce? What is it?
It's what we've been talking about.
I know what I'm saying.
I'm looking for this, and then it says, are you looking for this version of that or that version of that versus guessing, let's see, or worse, let's see what gives us the highest profit margin. And we'll show that example to somebody and then pretend that's in their best interest. Again, what I see is fundamentally different here. And I think it goes to the point of conversational commerce is that generative AI can have a conversation, hence the term conversational commerce. And you could argue that, whoever controls the front end, whoever has who's closest to the customer ultimately determines what's going to happen on the back end. Like, SAP's done a great job with the ERP systems, but Salesforce controls the front end, for example, of a lot of these relationships. And they could add an ERP, but I think
don't distract our voters.
Really struggle to add a front end. And they did, for example, not to call them out, but at the end, whoever has the front end, I think somebody said, the basement and then add the doors, but nobody goes to a place and says, hey, show me the basement. They want to see the door and they want to walk in. They see that first.
All right. There you go. Changing the conversation. Have you ever used ChatGPT, Andy? Have you ever tried to train it? Have you ever tried to give it context and walk it down the path? I mean, it's a lot of work. In its current state, it ain't there. That's all I'm saying. The conversation's fine. It'll talk to me. And maybe if you want company late at night or something, go ahead and start talking to ChatGPT. But, to find products, no way.
Brian, are you just having a spout here with your ChatGPT friend?
I am. All right. Well, anyway.
Spout, I mean spat. Are you having a spat with your ChatGPT friend?
I am actually. So
anyway, there'll be other ChatGPTs you can become friends with in the future.
Okay, good. I hope so, because it doesn't like me anymore. All right. So we a couple key takeaways. We're going to get to our poll question results in just a few minutes. Andy, high level, what do you think? Let's we got to go first to our. I think we got to go first actually to our closing argument. My apologies. I jumped right to our takeaways. So we do have a closing argument coming, and want to bring Subrata, ChatGPT back on the screen and give us some final words and a closing argument before we get to our take on it. But go ahead.
What a fascinating debate we just had. So first of all, thank you, Andy and Brian. And I think I want to thank all of the panel members. So Akash, Colin, Brooke, thank you for joining me in this conversation. And I know that we started this in a sort of either or in a provocative way, whether this or that. We learned a lot. And I think we are morphing more towards an and approach. There is value. There is definitely excitement about ChatGPT, use of large language models in e-commerce. How we want to have a human-like conversation when it might be starting with a query or a browse, and we want to find more products that we need. We want to be recommended, we want to be suggested, and that can have a more of a natural discovery encapsulated in that search journey. But we must do so in the context of understanding the B2B context, the specificity that Brooke talked about with the examples, what matters to you based on the product dimensions, or even some of the local preferences. So when you mash them together with that understanding of the B2B nuances and the buyer preferences, encapsulated by indexing that data, running the AI on top of that, the semantic understanding of what people are looking for. And then you bring in that kind of a human understanding that ChatGPT is promising, you have something really awesome. And that's the vision of conversational commerce. And I would say Algolia is actually on its path of doing that and extending that forward. What we do, we actually deploy a keyword and a semantic understanding for every single query people are talking about, asking for, looking for products. And then we find the most relevant results by using all of that index that we build, but also applying a lot of this filtering and faceting that will be very critical for B2B businesses. Things change all the time. Somebody said that. The catalog changes, new data comes in the form of buyer behavior, preferences, what people clicked on, what others are finding useful, the popular trends. So all of that is coming with the AI to enable that end-to-end AI vision of the platform. Now, there are vendors out there that I know are promising AI here and there, or some of the even integration with the ChatGPT. You want to be very careful in looking through that. Security is a concern. What type of AI they're using is a concern. It's like buying the car, right? You are trying to find the best car with the best performance, with the horsepower, and you want to invest in the technology that has been deployed end to end in providing that value and the beautiful sound that comes with that. And there are a lot of off-market products that can promise by bringing in some product here and there, like, it will give you some boost in your injection or compression or even throttle body, but would not give you that end-to-end horsepower improvement. And that's the difference between a site search solution that understands the value resides in semantic and keyword understanding, end-to-end AI application, but bringing in some of that conversational component to it versus just dropping the names here and there that they do AI. With that, really enjoy this conversation, and I'm going to turn it back to Andy and Brian to wrap it up.
Thank you, ChatGPT. And the and is really what I think actually the answer is. So thank you for that. Andy, we just got about 5 minutes left. So just any kind of recap from your standpoint, what did you think of the whole debate today?
Yeah, I think in doing some research about ChatGPT, it was interesting to see how it evolved. And you know how it started? It started with humans training the model. Mm-hmm. And then guess what happened? Eventually, the model started training itself. And they didn't even actually need the humans anymore. I think we're on the cusp of something like that here with ChatGPT. I think we're still maybe a little early to see ChatGPT in its full glory and its self-sustainable format. But I don't think we're very far away. Now that the votes are in, I don't think we're very far away from ChatGPT becoming the default front end to a lot of these experiences. Subrata would argue that the sort of the horsepower behind it, to use as metaphor, is going to come from traditional site search thinking. But what I wonder is, what's the front end going to look like? And if it looks like ChatGPT, are people just going to call it ChatGPT? It's going to become the Kleenex or the Google of search, ironically enough. Could it become that? And I think it could become that, not just in the public domain for B2C, which is arguably going to become, but with B2B, it could be a privatized version of that, where you're having a conversation with a B2B site, whatever form that takes.
Yeah, I mean, I have, 3 very brief things that I took out of this, Andy, and I think the answer number one is that it's an and ChatGPT holds a lot of promise. I mean, I was arguing against it, but at the end of the day, it's pretty incredible. You have to admit, I use it every day. It's for things, and it's incredible what it can do. But my second takeaway is it is not there yet. You can't take a ChatGPT search box and stick it on your website and hope it's going to do what, you're going to have to do the kinds of things that were being described. And then, there's one thing I always like to remind people is that if you're going to test some of this stuff, go out and put the customer first in it and make sure that you're, like Colin was talking about how he did that, make sure you put the customer ahead of it and that, you're really involving them in the process. Like Sarah Gallo, Dow Chemical, she said here, we already use AI to increase the relevance to our site search, but generative AI on the immediate horizon is the next phase. So I think a lot of people are thinking about it, right? So thanks for that comment, Sarah. We've got to get to our poll results. So I think it's about that time. Let's roll to the decision. How about some music, Robert? All right, let's see how we did here. So here's the LinkedIn poll where we asked the question, will ChatGPT become the new website search for B2B e-commerce sites? And the answer was 54 to 46 yes. So
This was last week
This was
before
last
the debate.
Yeah, when we asked the poll question. Let's see what our audience thought here. Site search will win the war for personalization. That's notch 1 for team site search. Are there basic limits to generative AI ability? 2. That's to Andy. I'm sorry, sir. I think
Brian, you're going to win this one.
I think you may have lost.
Congratulations on your win for 2023.
Who's going to be the original e-commerce? Oh, ChatGPT. Okay, fine. I'll concede on that question. Excellent. Lights out and Subrata, we well done. Woohoo! Get the award. Okay.
I think one thing we forgot to ask.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting as an addendum to this, and maybe it's sour grapes on my part, but we should have said if you had to bet on one. In 5 years, which one will dominate? I wonder what the answer would be.
It's still going to be site search, man.
I don't know. I actually don't know.
AI, integrating AI. It's going to be site search. It's too custom. There's too many specific applications. Anyway, I think it holds promise. Guys, you've made some great arguments. Our contenders, we want to thank you very much. Andy, anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Well, as much as it pains me, I have to congratulate you on the win, Brian, but I say it so infrequently that it doesn't feel so bad.
Oh, it's great. I'm going to bask in my glory for the next whatever it is month, and then you'll have another crack at it. But for now, Andy, as the reigning champion, I'd like to sign us off. Thank you for joining us today for our unwebinar, and we will see you next time.